which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you all stand for a minute, because we need a moment of silence for, what can I call it?
We had an individual who was a previous board member, Daniel Ritter, who passed away this morning, and he was a town board member years ago. And also, I regret to say that Rose Lafever, 90 years old, had passed away on the 29th of September, which was Sunday. And she and her husband were very deeply rooted in the politics and community of the town of Rosendale. County District Representative for Senator Richard E. Skimmerhorn, Senator Charles E. Cook, and Senator John Bonasek. So if we could have a moment of silent meditation for these two individuals, would be appreciated. Thank you.
First of all, we have the tentative budget that Deb Tierney, our town clerk, just handed out. There's no real action tonight, just that keep in mind this budget is based on the town department heads have requested, what they want, and I will be looking at this and making amendments. So this is not the final budget, just want to be sure everybody realizes that, and there will be changes. But first we have Chief Soul is here to address the board about the police department's budget. Would you like to come up, Chief? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Can you give me a second? I totally forgot to ask people if they had any public input or community events. I'm sorry, Terry. Yes.
I just want to ask for an agenda item on next week's meeting.
I don't have the agenda written up yet for next
Okay.
week.
It's a request for an agenda item on trying to solve the problems of the location of the Rosendale Farmers Market.
We already discussed it.
Well, the thing is that, I'll talk about that to you further later on, because it's really something through the, we've been dealing with through the Rec Commission.
Right.
And at this point, I'd have to, converse with them before I take any action on the town board. And I've let them know what the options were. We had, and the public was there. So, basically waiting for some of them to get back to me on some of that. But I'll get back to you on it, because I have to talk to the board and see how we want to go forward on this.
Okay, because I just thought it would be good to have a discussion about options and about.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Were you at that meeting?
Unfortunately, I was out of town.
Okay,
but I did hear about it.
Yeah, well, at that meeting, the Rec Commission and myself explained to the public why things were the way they were about these state and federal regulations. And we made several offers for them for relocation, and really it's up to them about whether they're interested in those relocation areas or not. And the way we left it, again, said it nicely that, if they have a grassroots group that wants to try to find a way to address the issues that the state and the federal government have given to the town, they're welcome to do that. But I think the board has an obligation to uphold the law and the compliance issues that have been pointed out to us.
Okay, I just thought there could be some discussion through the board itself also about how to overcome some of these problems. That was why I requested it.
I don't know that we have any options. It's basically a federal mandate that's been given to the town, and I don't know that we have any options at this point. Do you have anything to put in that, Ken? You were there.
No, and again, at the Rec Commission meeting, I thought it was a very good meeting. It turned into, I thought, a brainstorming session about potential ways to solve it, and or certainly find an alternative location, so it's continuous. And, you know, Billy's here, so help me out as I go along, Bill. You know, we're time constrained here as far as finding a permanent place for the food, farmer's market going forward, so that the vendors will be able to commit for next year. That's very, very important. So for right now, I think the energies need to be focused on where could an alternative be, and then long-term, certainly if there can be a grassroots effort, which I believe that there is, and there's also been some discussion with state and federal representatives, that if the regulations can be changed and relieved, then certainly it's a different ball, you know, it's a whole different ballgame. But as we explained at the rec commission meeting, as a sitting board, we have an obligation to follow the law as written. We take an oath to do so. So unfortunately, moving forward, we just have to echo what's being told to us by our federal and state regulators, and it stinks.
Yeah, and I will add to that, that we did give them, you know, quite a few options for relocation. You know, Willow Kiln Park was one, Creek Locks property, possibly Binnewater Road, and some of the private businesses have also been interested and made offers. So I think we have at least 5 possible locations for them to look at as a relocation. So I think that it's pretty clear that town wants to continue to support it, but we have to follow the mandate. We want to be in compliance with the state so that we do not run into any problems with funding for any projects that we do with recreation. So, Billy?
The farmer's market is committed to finding a location for 2014, but I think what we're asking for is, once the grant for the pool is completed, that we have right now feelers out to our federal and state legislators, but we're hoping that after the grant is decided, hopefully in favor of the town, but once that is done, we're hoping that the town board can come on board to help us to try and solve it, getting back in here. I mean, for years I called it a rec center, and they always told me it's a community center. The farmer's market is not recreational, but it does bring community. And the community center, it is the best location. Willow Kiln, there's problems with access in and out. Basically, you have a one-way street on Hardenberg Avenue. And when someone is trying to come out, and someone's pulling in, I don't know how many times I've had to cringe when someone starts to back out onto Main Street because the person coming out will not back up. Willow Kiln, you know, it's, you know, not most desirable. Quick Glass Commons would be good, but think about on a rainy Sunday, we are a rain or shine market. People getting stuck down in there, the vendors, shoppers, whatever. That's why we try to have, you know, a paved surface. We did have one incident out here when they were building the sidewalks alongside the ball field out there. We did have a cord there. There were stones from the construction of the sidewalks. There were beer caps from the softball people. The woman fell. No one saw her fall. No one knows why she fell. But our insurance carrier paid out $90,000 for this woman's injuries. We'd like to be on as level a surface as possible. We are looking into for the 2014 season because it is important, timely, that our vendors know that they have a home for 2014. Otherwise, if they find another home and we can resolve things and possibly come back here, we cannot guarantee that they're going to come back. So we are going on a two-pronged approach. Number one is to try and find a location for 2014. But again, I just want to reiterate it, is that once the pool grant is done, we're hoping we get some support from our town board, approaching our federal and state legislators to see what we can do. I don't want to use variance, accommodation, whatever, but a lot of us feel that this is the best location.
Bill, probably shouldn't say this, and I've been known to say things that I shouldn't say before.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. But believe it or not, this town board has made those inroads already with our federal and state representatives to the extent that we can, to the extent that we are not an active participant in ignoring the regulations. I can read into what I'm saying. We as a board are compliant. It sucks. But when we leave the boardroom, there's communications that need to be made in hopes that this whole thing can be fixed. And I'll leave it at that. I probably said too much already.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna
No,
put ourselves in that position.
that's why I said I said too much.
I just want to say, like I said, the simplest form, and we discussed, Congressman Gibson is very much for the farmers. This is a stepping stone to sell the farmers' products. To keep things simple, send a letter to him. And another side note, I'm more than happy and not as a council person, but as an individual,
No, you're not getting involved in something.
to ask my in-laws if the parking lot up there could be used.
Not talking to you.
We didn't know what foot you were going to put.
I apologize.
I didn't know I needed to have a speech written, and I had to come in with it.
I just want to be very careful that this board doesn't commit to doing anything, okay? In relation to the farmer's market, at this point, the only thing we can do is offer other properties outside of the park and to say that, we support it. The town has supported it for 7 years. We want to continue to support it, but we have to be realistic about what can happen here. And, we're not going to put this park in jeopardy. So that's the way I stand on it. And, it's one of those things that needs a compromise. And, we'll be supportive, we'll help, we'll offer other properties. At this point, we cannot, make any commitment to anything other than that. That's the way I stand on it. I'm sorry. Because I'm not going to be put in a position that we promise something so that we can get something else. That's not going to happen.
We're all in favor of having a farmer's market, but like I said before, we got to remember, all those knee-jerk comments that were somewhat nasty and somewhat directed towards us, I mean, it got back to the Palisades, and that's when they took a real hard foot and put it in the ground and said that's it. So it can't be blamed on us. A lot of the ones that spend time on Facebook and generate these knee-jerk reaction thoughts, that's what put the situation into the situation that it's at now.
You're right.
Just remember that.
Yeah, because
please.
I had already had a tentative agreement to allow it to operate over the winter, and I'd asked them for some leeway on that, and they, looked like that was going to happen, and then the day that that article was in the paper, that was the end of that. So, it's some things that you have to think about what you're saying, what you're doing, and they said now they don't want to be in the middle of that, so they just said no. Yes, Jim.
I totally understand about not wanting to sort of rock the boat about trying to expand the definition of accessory use, and when the town has a grant out right now. It seems to me that this was talked about just for very briefly at the rec commission meeting, but going the regulatorily sanctioned route, and I understand this can't be done overnight, but of doing the conversion of land, not just for the farmer's market, but just so that we have maximum flexibility to use this
They won't let
building.
you do it that way.
In order to convert,
That's not the way it works, and it's been attempted before, since Phil was in office, there's been 12 years of attempt to do a conversion,
Right.
was
Why
not
didn't it
successful. Well,
Why
I'm
didn't
not,
it
you might, Jim,
Yeah.
you might have a
Let me
little bit
explain.
more information.
No,
Let me
I'm
explain.
just wondering, just so
Let me
I can go
explain how
by.
it works.
Well, it was
Okay.
going on when you
It's
were
not
deputy
there.
supervisor, so
Okay.
you might be able to share some information too.
I have no idea
Ah.
about this, so. I
Basically,
can't-
when they first came in here and said they want a conversion, they wanted to convert the property underneath the trestle that was donated to the village in the early 40s as a park.
Oh, so it's already.
You
part of
cannot convert a park for a park. That's number
Right.
one. Number two, you wanted to get the Iron Mountain property to make the conversion.
Mhm.
It was all set and go. I leave office, Pat comes in, balls are dropped, it doesn't get converted. It's not Pat's entire fault, but they took it upon themselves. No, they were happy with me, but now I'm out, and now we're not happy with this place. So now the conversion starts another 8 years of it going through.
2 places were
Right.
rejected.
And then it gets brought out
Okay.
to the Creek Locks Commons property, and again, love it, everything, and then it's just disappeared. So now we're in 12 years of, actually 10 years of no conversion.
Well, that's what I'm asking, but the other properties, I see now the problems with that, but it's actually the Creek Locks property that I was
But
thinking
they're not
of.
going to do a conversion for a piece of property let me explain something. The reason they were gonna do a conversion was because this building was larger than the footprint of the last building, okay? That's for something tangible, okay? You can't do a conversion for something that, you know, is not something that's a permanent part of the park. You take away a piece of the park to get another piece of property in the town to be part of a park for something that isn't part of the park. It's not a tangible part of the park. It's so that you can have a use there for something that, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You can't have something that's permanently part of the park or change in the park, you know, because of something that you may have.
Are you
okay?
talking about the farmer's market?
Yeah, if you use the farmer's
Right,
market.
and I'm
So
not-
that's,
right.
so let me just finish. So the other thing that you have to consider is what the cost and the time, and we don't have, this is not a timely thing that gets done, that you just decide to do a conversion. That's not gonna happen between now and next spring, okay? So even if we were to say that we all decided that was the best move, it would not happen within 6 months.
That I understand.
And even the
That-
head of Parks and Recreation is willing to take away off the table the option of the conversion if he can get permission from everybody else that he has to get permission from for this place as an accessory use because of the changes we're making by moving up to the school. Even that, you know, is tentative right now. And I have to hold on to that option for this property right now. So we're waiting to see.
Right.
And that could be months and months and months before I have that answer.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm looking beyond the farmer's market, and I mean, I do think that this is a great location.
It's come up for
market.
so many different
But-
reasons as far as the use of the park.
Right.
It's come over and over and over, and for 12 years, different supervisors and different administrations have tried to find a way to make the park be able to be used for other things besides just, you know, what the state and the federal government mandated.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but for this, unless I'm like completely not seeing something, I'm talking about the use of this building and the parking lot that supports this building. But we're actually in this really fortuitous time where the Creek Blocks property is going to be used for, we're pretty sure, right, that it's gonna be used for ball fields. So that's obviously recreational property. So this is actually probably the only opportunity that we have as a town to take the step, the actual act of designating new land as parkland in exchange for making this community center a community center forever and not having to worry
That's
constantly
not
about
gonna
asking.
that's not what they're willing
Jen,
to do.
a land swap would not change that, and I'm surprised you're even bringing it up, because you've been there, you've been in the office, you've seen the paperwork.
No, I haven't.
Well,
I have not
that's what you
seen
ran
the
on 2
paperwork.
years ago, you know, so I'm just going by what you told everybody. That you had a
No, I
finger on the
didn't.
pulse, and there's something missing there, Jen.
Okay.
And so that's, what we're telling you is the truth. It's the way it is,
It's
and I wish it could be different.
it's not gonna
But
change.
hold on, there's a way to proceed, to maybe get to that end goal. We can sit here all night and talk about that. You got a good idea, but it's just not gonna work in accordance to the law and the way this place was purchased. I think we got a pretty good grip on what to do on the next step, all right? And it's gonna be proceed slowly, have an end goal, but make sure the farmer's market has a place to go next year.
And the other thing is that I've been told to hold on to the option of, do not dedicate that park yet, because they may still have to do it, okay? They may still have to use that park for this conversion that's already been rejected twice, okay? So I can't, and even then, it's not so that you can have meetings and the other things that we've been, we're not in compliance because of that also. So the only reason they're considering this now is because we're going to be moving our meetings to a new location. So there's other things that have been going on here for a long time about this, and the conversion would have made that allowed, even with the size of the building. So that conversion wasn't even going to allow other uses in the building. It was only going to allow the size of the building to exist. They're very, and the way the state explains it to me, this is a federal mandate, and they really have, their hands are tied too. This is coming from the federal government. The federal government says this is what you're allowed to do. It's not just the farmer's market, there's other restrictions. And we've been dealing with that ever since this property was bought. I mean, we know time and again there's been issues of, you can't do this, you can't do that. But now the park is starting to fall apart. We need to, rebuild it. The pool is in bad shape. We got a tennis court and a basketball court that needs rebuilding. we never have any funding or never be able to be in a position, we have to be careful that how we go forward is to make sure that this park is protected. I believe in the farmer's market. We want to see all those things happen, but not at risk to the park. The park is one of our biggest assets, and we want to make sure that it continues to be able to be an asset for the community. Right now, we have no pool. We have to think about that. That's got to be the priority. Dennis?
Just very quickly, I suspect from what Bob was saying, that when you were supervisor and you seemed to kind of got the ball rolling about conversion, at least they seemed amenable to it. I'm wondering, and you certainly don't know this, but because it is a federal mandate, if, as the process proceeded, that the state was receiving flack from the federal government, and that could possibly be, that's another thing. State's not going to tell you what it's dealing with the federal government. I'm wondering if they ran into a problem. That it's really not anybody's fault in the sense that it's, a lot of this is personal relationship too, with a specific person you probably dealt with, as Jeannie deals with, as any of the supervisors have dealt with whenever they're dealing with a matter. And
those
how you're
people have
dealing with
changed,
them,
yeah.
and then who they may have to deal with, and of course the federal government is involved with what you are not dealing with directly.
Right. And the person I'm dealing with is not the same person that Patrick and Bob dealt with.
Yeah.
Okay, that person's no longer there. But when Patrick was in office, the project got rejected. Okay, so that conversion didn't happen because it was the state's option to say yes or no. No matter how much work the town does, when it comes down to it, they get to say the final yes or no. And they said no. So, we invited them to come down, look at everything else, look at everything that we have here, and consider, whether they would let us do a new piece of property, which was the Creek Lots property. And that's where all this started, okay? Because we have to, I'm trying to continue this conversion process. And what people don't understand is, it wasn't about the farmer's market, it was about this building getting the okay to continue to be part of the park. There's been a $50,000 grant, which I've mentioned numerous times to the public, that it's been sitting on a shelf, and we have not been able to get it for 12 years, and it's because of not being in compliance. So it's not like something where they're just gonna say, oh, well, we'll give it to you. I mean, I don't wanna see us in a position where we never ever can get funding because we're constantly in this vicious cycle of trying to get this resolved.
And
Yes.
just to touch on that $50,000, if anybody remembers that our old rec center, the building here, needed repair, and we applied for a $50,000 grant and got it. And once that grant was secured, it was pretty much determined that it was senseless to put a new roof on a building such as that. So the thought was to move forward, and we've got this beautiful thing here. And that's when that whole issue of compliance came up, when the state came down and basically said to us that the use of that building for town meetings such as this was not compliant. So that moved the town to start that whole process, and here we are.
Yeah.
Could you just tell me what the amount of the kick-in was?
The amount of what?
The amount that was expended by the Palisades?
I don't know that number.
Well, if it's $50,000, I mean,
No, we're talking about the purchase of this property.
no, but I believe they only kicked in,
They provided the funding.
but it wasn't 100%, was it?
No, the town road, the residents of Rosendale paid for the purchase of this park
Yes,
through the federal funding, and that's where the
It's
restriction.
I quite understand that, but my understanding was that Palisades put in X dollars and that the town put in Y dollars. Is that correct or incorrect?
Don't know the answer to that.
Well, to me, that's a very big issue, because if the town put in, I don't know figures, but if all that Palisades put in was $25,000, it appears, I don't know. But
I don't think it can go back. I think it's about the restrictions when this park was created. It's how the restrictions were placed, it's not something you can undo.
It was implemented at the time.
It's like a covenant. You've signed on to a covenant that you can't undo.
And the agreement was that the property would be purchase
I
and
understand.
utilize it strictly for
But if you
recreation.
look,
I understand your logic, but I don't think that that applies. I'd be happy to look into it, but I don't believe that that would
and you
apply.
have the original paperwork,
I'm sure.
You know what, I think the bottom line is, and everybody should realize that the board
Could everybody please keep their voices down?
and everyone in this room are on the same page. We all feel the same. We want the farmer's market. But we gotta remember, like Councilman Hassan said, if a grassroots group moves forward, whatever you do, you gotta do it sensitive, because if you aggravate these people that we have to answer to, they're gonna become vindictive, and it's not just gonna be grants for the pools, it's gonna be grants for everything, and Rosendale will get blacklisted. So whatever you plan on doing, you have to really think and be sensitive as you move forward, because you get more bees with honey than you do with sugar, and that's the bottom line.
All right, I'm gonna call an end to this discussion.
Oh, it's just getting good.
We'll move on. Chief, I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
I have a quick community event that I see it's not on the sheet. The Chamber of Commerce does a annual community Halloween party at Williams Lake, and this year is October 26th. It's a Saturday.
October what?
I think it's 26th. Billy, is that right? Billy's got his blackberry back there. His blueberry, I mean. And this year we're going to do it in the evening after a fundraiser, a 5K fundraiser during the morning. For
What date was that?
Saturday, October 26th.
At what time?
We don't know.
Oh, at evening. All right, well, you'll let us know. You can give the information.
Just be at Tim's house by 6 in the morning, and I'll have breakfast for everybody. And then we'll
Bill,
do
if you
that
could send that information to Jill so she can put it on next week's agenda.
Could I make one other?
Sure.
Just a reminder to folks that tomorrow night is Candidates Night, hosted by the Women's Club, right here at 7 o'clock.
Oh, that's good.
Has that been advertised anywhere?
We don't know, we're
They were
not.
supposed to put that.
Because I haven't seen anything in the paper.
It's done by the Women's Club, and there you have somebody that's supposed to take care of it. I have no idea. I have not been involved in it because can't this year.
Say no more.
I'm out.
Well, there's not going to be very many people here since nobody knows about it.
Hey, wasn't there a talk that they were going to have a con show or something down at the theater?
Yes.
And who's doing that?
The theater.
Who heads that up?
Julie Novak.
Is there a date or anything for that?
The 15th? I think it's the 15th, right,
Of October?
There's
I
one in
thought it was in
October,
7. There are a
and
couple
there's
of
one
them.
in November as
All right, well,
well.
let's find out before we start putting
Right.
dates around.
All right, long agenda.
Okay, Terry.
Good evening, everyone. As always, I like to come down just in case there's any questions from the board on the budget. But before I start, I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of the MedX return box that we now have at the police department. So if anybody has any prescription pills that they're not using and they want to dispose of them, if you just come up to the station between the hours of 8 and 3, Monday through Friday, it looks like a mailbox. You just drop them in, and please don't give us any liquids in there. That's the only thing that I know next week we'll be hanging out some posters around town and putting them up.
She's gonna drop them off tomorrow.
Okay.
Is that also on the website?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
There was a link. We did a press release, and I know it was in the paper, and I did a few radio spots to
And
get the word out.
We mentioned it at a board meeting.
Okay, it's a great, great thing, because there's nowhere for people to get rid of their medications, so, please, give them to us to dispose of, so they're not sitting in your house. That's a great thing. I have given everybody a copy of my budget, as I do every year. In there, I don't know if there's any discussion. The only thing that I have is that, as always, for contractual reasons, I do have an increase in there, but as far as the only increase I have in equipment would be for just to cover my car payment for this year's, their 2014 payment for the police car that we bought. Other than that, my .4 contractual services stays the same, my unallocated stays the same, and the DWI revenues and police fees are staying the same. So I don't know if there's any questions on that, but there's a copy for everyone to look at.
I want to say that I had a chance to see Matt Turpinning in action at the Tilson Festival on the child seat, and that's a really impressive program, and I want to just thank you.
Okay, and spread the word, because we have car seats available.
Yeah.
If someone is in need of a car seat or needs to make sure that the car seat is fit properly to their vehicle, because it's quite a bit more technical than one would think to make sure that the child is secure in the car. Matt Turpinning is a technician, and he's available by appointment anytime we can get him out there. So.
Yeah. It's a big difference from when my kids were little. I had my nephew and I was like, I cannot figure out how to get this thing in the car.
Well, my parents' arm was the car seat.
You're not alone, Gina.
We had a gate in the back of the station wagon.
Right.
I've become pretty good at that, fixing different car seats in different cars.
Harry, basically this is what is projected in the agreement, in the labor agreement.
Well, right now, we don't have a current labor agreement. It covers up until the 2012 budget cycle. So,
Up through the end. Yeah, it's this year though.
So we're out of the cycle right now, so it's an anticipated, and that's why we put in the unallocated, just in case to make up. I know I'll have monies left in my budget, as I do try to have every year, because one never knows when one of those lovely storms is going to come and aggravate us here in town, or anything else. I know I'm on track to have funding to be able to put towards, hopefully, next year's budget.
Anybody have any questions?
It's a tight budget, Chief.
We try to keep it tight.
I usually like to find something, but I can't find any yet.
Well, since the supervisor took over, it was easier with Supervisor Gallagher.
Not with this department.
We'll be meeting at some point. I've invited all the department heads to meet with me to go over their tentative budget and explain to me what they're doing with the money, to see if any cuts can be made. That's my job. So
The hatchet. Okay, if there's not any questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, one other thing, can we move the item, the curfew up, so I can actually sit on that?
Yes.
8:30, all in favor?
How about 8 o'clock?
Actually, that is not supposed to be done until next week.
Okay, do
But
we
if you
want to
want-
have any discussion
if
on
you
it?
How about we
wanna-
have a discussion
Yeah.
this week, and then we can zero in next week
That's
and do
right.
away with all that silly stuff?
But we have the resolution here if you want to, if we had suggested 8:30, is that,
It's been all the time.
that's what we did last year.
I don't have issue with that, it generally seems a good time that everybody is in, because obviously it's getting darker, and the same conversations we have.
Is there some other issue about Halloween that you want to bring up before we do a resolution?
No, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that there was no other topics that we wanted to talk about. I'm happy with 8:30.
Okay.
Come on, man, save the kids.
Well, I'm just reflecting some comments we heard in the government, in some of the developments.
Is your mic on?
Sorry. In some of the developments, because, on the more rural roads, little ones take their kids, and it's dark, and, so they cluster into the developments. And by 8 o'clock, no matter what people buy, they're
Out.
they're out. And then you know, they have to figure out, should they turn the lights off, and, you know, they tend to get the pranks and stuff like that. So it's just feedback. I'm not saying one way or another, but we do get that feedback.
So the feedback was for earlier?
For earlier,
to-
for eight.
for
And I
eight
know
to-
that for the older kids, that's,
Yeah.
you know, they always push for 9, so we're
That's
sort of
always
caught in
been-
the middle.
That's always been our dilemma every year,
Yeah.
you know, to give the kids as much
I would
time.
have this.
Well, also, you don't want even families that are, you know, taking their kids around to be in violation. We didn't get back home yet, you know, or something. That was my concern. You're going door to door and you're like, okay, we gotta head home, and it takes a while to get
You
home.
have to
What day is
remember,
our-
you have to remember when you're with a parent, the curfew says there's an age in the curfew, correct?
Yeah, under 18.
Correct, so if you're with your parent, you're not in
Yeah,
violation.
hasn't it been unaccompanied minor?
So maybe we should change that to, that a curfew of 8 for unaccompanied youth under 18. No? You don't like that? You want to keep it at 8:30?
I don't think so, I'm kidding with it.
No. You know, I've heard some feedback too from people in the developments, and I think they're the ones that are most affected, because what we're seeing lately is that there's people from outlying areas that are going to the developments and dropping their kids off, and, you know, they are getting wiped out with candy, and there's some other issues that come along with that. And the feedback I've heard, and from what I've seen, is that there's a lot of strangers in the neighborhoods, because people like to know that their children are in a clustered area. So, you know, High Falls Park and Tilson Estates and Clark's Estates, they're all the ones that get hit. And I've seen it, literally, people from out of town drop their kids off and say, I'll see you, in a few hours. So I think that's something we have to consider also, to alleviate that as much as we can. At the same time, giving, you know, the kids the right to have a good time and enjoy themselves. And thank goodness, I think for the past couple of years, we've been relatively lucky throughout town, you know.
Well, my biggest concern is, again, is someone being injured by a moving motor vehicle. We do have residents that host large events, and that's what's attracting a lot of people to some of these developments, which is a lot of foot traffic. Again, I'm not going to argue 8 or 8:30. That's, again, I have children also, so I mean, they're out. But my thing of it is that at 8 or 8:30, generally everything is done, and it gives them an opportunity to get home. Obviously, you haven't heard of us arresting anybody for a curfew violation, but it gives us a great guidance tool to let everybody know to be off the street, because that's my concern, is someone being injured by a moving motor vehicle. Because we all know the children dart around from place to place, and that's my concern.
That's a good one. You know, I'll leave it up to the rest of the board and, you know, with your recommendation, because I don't really have a preference for 8 to 8:30, but, you know, I think either way is fine.
We can mow it for a week and
You know, we're going to make the decision on,
That's fine.
on next Wednesday.
I won't put anything on Facebook about it.
You won't?
No.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Once again, a perfectly good 15 minutes has been littered away in the back.
Thank you.
Between a half hour.
Hey, watch it there.
I'm sorry, man. You're lucky you have no hair, Bob, because if I had stayed on the board another 4 years and had this conversation 4 more
Look at
times,
me,
I'd
you
have
said
pulled
Bob.
all my hair out.
Well, you know, I'm just thinking about, you know what, I'm thinking
Now you're
about,
starting a whole nother 15 minutes, okay? Keep it quiet if
I'm
you don't
thinking about
want
this Halloween thing, and after last year, I think we ought to cancel Halloween, and not have anybody go out of the
All
house.
right, next
All right,
item.
all right.
Next
all right.
item.
I knew that would end it.
All right, so, next on the agenda, I have the findings for the Rosendale findings, SEQRA findings for HRVR. And after a lot of work on Jill's part, all this stuff was posted on the website today. As you can see, it's got the DEC findings are included in there. That's why you can see that it's attached to the back, so that we're adopting their findings. And then in addition, we have our findings, which talk about the community character, the land use zoning. comparison, how the project fits the comprehensive plan. And some of the things that I felt were important based on my own opinion and on some comments and feedback that we got throughout this process. Some things that were put into place as far as the local sourcing commitments. We are putting some mechanisms in place for the public access, for local sourcing agreement with the town, so that they will be able to kind of keep an eye on the fact that they're going to source local and hire local labor.
Gina, I would just like to request that we have a little time to process this. We did just get them today. We have a regular town board meeting next week, so that would be my request, is that we have a week to look them over and process them. I had expected, I thought that you had indicated several meetings ago that the findings were being developed, and I actually thought they would be ready.
If I were not ill, you would have had them over.
Yeah, no, but
You would have, but I think that everything's.
you don't have to wait another month, but I am requesting a week to be able to just process this.
Did you get a chance to look at them at all today?
I didn't, I had a very busy day at work. I can't read while I'm driving and.
You know the way I feel, this has been going on so many years and so much time. You know what? It's time. We've had public hearings, we've had discussions on top of the discussions, on top of discussions. Ms. Metzger, she's behind it all, she's in favor of it. I mean, just read your last campaign thing that you were 100% behind. So with all this being said, it's time to move forward and let's get this stuff going.
I'll leave it up to the board. If the board wants to go forward, we'll do it tonight. I agree that we're addressing all the issues that we talked about, and a lot of those came up during the public hearing, and it would have been nice to have it sooner, but to tell you the truth, we really continue to work on it constantly, improving it and making it better every day. So, Mary Lou, myself, Dave Plant, all spent a lot of time on this to come up with something that we felt was a good document that expressed, what the findings expressing what the FEIS says and the issues that are related to the town, which I just mentioned, which were the community character, the land use and zoning. We have to do this before we do the zoning amendment, so I think.
And just to add, Nana, I had a busy day today too, but when I got the email, I made it a point to download it and make it a point to read it. It's not a lot, and everything in here is exactly what we talked about in every public hearing and up to including some discussion we've had here on the board, and specific to some of your main concerns. And I saw that they were in here. With that said, there's nothing new in here. And I think we have an obligation and a responsibility, especially with something this important, that we can find the 15 minutes in a day to read it, knowing that there's a meeting coming up. We're very, very busy people, but we have obligations that we adhere to. And it's just my feeling, just as much as you'd like to have another week to digest what we already know is in there, what you've already stressed many, many times that you'd like to see in there, it's there. It's there. It's like that old Wendy's commercial. It's in there. Or the Prego commercial, whatever the heck it was. No disrespect meant, but I agree with Councilman Ryan. It's time to move on. I'm going to make a motion to vote.
I'll second it.
I just want to say that it's not, I skimmed it as I was sitting there. I came in a few minutes early to skim it, but I have not had a chance to process put it in the context of what I have heard city owners
I hear you.
report. So,
I hear you. Unfortunately, you weren't able to do that, but I have, and I think most of the board members have said that they have. And quite honestly, I think it's an impressive document. And it's going to make for a better project moving forward. And all the input that's been put into this over the past 7 years, and the concerns that have been expressed by all sides, I think are reflected in these findings. And there's nothing more to say. Let's vote it.
How about if I read the resolution? Resolution 10-2013-1, to issue findings for the Hudson River Valley Resorts LLC project. Whereas the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation accepted the FEIS for the Hudson River Valley Resorts LLC project on May 15, 2013, and issued findings for the project on July 9, 2013. And whereas prior to taking any action related to the project, the Town Board of Rosendale, as an involved agency, is required to make its own findings related to same. And whereas the Town Board of Rosendale is contemplating adopting a zoning amendment, which is part of the project, and whereas the Town Board has had the opportunity to review the DEC findings, the DEIS, and the FEIS for the project, as well as town documents, including the current zoning law and the comprehensive plan, it is hereby resolved that the Town Board adopts and issues the next findings for the Hudson River Valley Resorts LLC project and authorizes the supervisor to certify the same and file the same in the supervisor's office and forward copies of the findings to lead agency, New York State DEC, all involved agencies, all interested agencies and persons in Hudson River Valley Resorts LLC.
I'll second it.
Roll vote, Councilman Gallagher,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
no, for insufficient time to process the information.
Councilman Hassett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes. And next is the adoption of the local law number 1 of 2013, resolution 10-2013-2. Whereas in 2007, Hudson River Valley Resort requested amendment to town zoning, and whereas in response to comments received during the SEQRA process and changes in the Hudson River Valley Resort project, discussions with town representatives and the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Ulster County Planning Board, and the community, a revised zoning amendment was presented to the town board in 2011. And whereas the FEIS, including a revised zoning amendment, was accepted by the Department of Environmental Conservation as lead agency on May 15, 2013. And whereas the New York State DEC as lead agency issued findings approving the overall project on July 9, 2013. And whereas the proposed zoning amendment was referred to the Ulster County Planning Board for recommendations. And whereas the Ulster County Planning Board issued a recommendation with regard to the zoning amendment on June 6, 2013. And whereas the town board has amended the proposed zoning to comply with all county planning board recommendations, with the exception of the recommendation that the right-of-way over the former Welk Hill Valley railbed trail have permanent easement at master plan approval. The portion of the railbed has already been open for public access, and a permanent easement will be required prior to first phase site plan approval. And whereas a public hearing on the proposed law was held on August 14, 2013, which hearing was held open for written comments until August 21st, 2013. Whereas as a result of public comment, the town board has made substantial changes to the zoning amendment. And whereas the town board issued its SEQRA findings on October 2nd, 2013. And whereas the zoning amendment is in conformity with the town's comprehensive plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale hereby adopts the attached zoning amendment known as Local Law Number 1 of 2013, amended Chapter 75 of Code of the Town of Rosendale to add a new Section 58, Binnewater Lakes Conservation Plan Development Area.
I'll second.
roll vote, Councilman Gallagher,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
I am going to abstain, and I would like to take just a moment to say why. The main reason, there are two main reasons. One is that I am not convinced that this is not spot zoning, and I know I've heard all of the arguments that it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. However, I think that there are arguments pro and con, so I'm concerned about the issue of spot zoning. I'm also concerned about the context, the fact that volunteers and paid consultants worked on the zoning code that was supposed to put all of our zoning in context and in alignment with the master plan, the comprehensive plan. And that has not been done, but this has moved forward. The language was originally developed by the developer. It has been improved by public process. And because it's been improved, rather than voting no, I'm going to abstain. But I am going to abstain because I still have concerns and reservations. And the reason that I'm not, those are the reasons I'm not voting yes. The reasons I'm not voting no is that I am pleased to see how much of the public process has influenced the document. Thank you.
Councilman Hassett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes. The next resolution I'm putting off till next week. This is the authorization for the your HRVR sewer.
It's a transportation.
Transportation Corporation permission. I didn't have all the documents in place today, so I'm putting that off till next week.
Okay.
So I will be sending, once those documents are completed, I'll send them off to the board so that we have them before this next week's meeting.
What's HRVR stand for?
That's a River Valley Resorts.
Oh, okay. I have a hard time making changes.
The next is the High Falls Water District tax bill and bill leases. There's been some problems over the last couple of years. The leasees of the tower in the High Falls Water District were not paying the taxes, came up for tax bill for sale. It wasn't entirely their fault. They weren't getting billed so the district is paying the taxes, and then we're going to bill the leasees in the meantime so that we can straighten all this out. So that's what this resolution is for. And both towns have to, Marbletown and Rosendale both have to approve this resolution in order to go forward. And I believe they did theirs last night. So Resolution 10, 2013, is this 3? Authorizing the High Falls Water District to pay tax bills and bill leases. Whereas the High Falls Water District leases space to Verizon, AT&T, and Time Warner Cable. And whereas past property taxes are not being paid on time. And whereas the tax bills for said property have come due. And whereas the current school tax bill payment and now overdue tax county and unpaid school tax portion that was re-levied on the 2013 town and county tax bill is due. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale authorizes the High Falls Water District to pay the tax bills as they come due on SBL number 70.3-3, 37.299, keeping the taxes from becoming delinquent and incurring penalties. Be it further resolved that the High Falls Water District will then bill the companies Verizon, AT&T, and Time Warner Cable who lease space at the High Falls Water District property, the apportioned amounts as per the town of Marbletown assessor and the Rondell Valley School District.
I'll second.
Roll vote, Councilman Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. I just wanted to bring up that we have to, I don't have any paperwork on this, but we have to go forward. I'd like to present the board with an option for putting up 424 Main Street, our present town hall, for sale in the near future. So I just wanted to, I'm asking Mary Lou to kind of look into it, but I just wanted to bring it up tonight so you'd be aware that we're going to work on that. I think that, next week we'll have some other things that are related to getting moved into the school, but we need to start the process of putting the building up for sale. I've seen some problems recently with what happened at Kingston School, and I want to make sure that we don't follow their lead and do the same kind of errors in selling a piece of property that has to go through a certain process. So I'll be bringing that to the board next week. Whether we're going to be advertising it in addition to the notifications, or whether we just go out for a bid is the question, I think, more than anything.
But regardless of the vehicle in which we sell it, let the word go out that it is for sale, a historical building on Little Main Street, Rosendale, New York, and let's hope that it becomes a bidding war.
With a little parking lot.
Yeah.
Very low parking lot.
So it's like gold on Main Street. Yes, Bill.
It is available for parking waivers.
And next thing, we had, we've had a lot of work done by Brinnier and Larios, and we're asking them to do some additional work on the decommissioning of the Binnewater Dam. I don't have a resolution attached here. We just have this new outline of additional costs and then the next steps for the decommissioning. As you know, we did apply for the permit, and Deb has sent out the paperwork to do so.
I did on the way home tonight, check the mail, and I have the card from DEC saying
They did receive it.
paid for it.
So hopefully we'll be hearing from them soon. They just had the one condition, which was to be careful not to cut trees while the bats were there, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. But these are a list of the next things that have to be done. It looks like another $8,295 worth of work is projected to finish up the decommissioning. As I said before, and I'll say again, I believe that our in-house workers can do this actual decommissioning with their supervision, which will save us a lot of money. So rather than hiring out, I think with their oversight of the project, we can make sure that it.
I have a problem. I'm just gonna call Mastro up there and they'll be done and over with.
Seconds.
Seconds.
Yeah. So I think that if everybody's okay, we're gonna authorize the additional cost, because we're getting close. We're getting close to the finish line on that, and I'm glad to see that. Obviously, with the Halloween curfew. And so I'm bringing an idea to you guys, and I'm hoping you'll be supportive of it. I'd like to see a campaign for return bottles, recycling return bottles, with the revenue going to the pool as another pool fundraising effort. Last week, I think it was, the turn-in for a week's worth of bottles was about $85, and I see, by maybe putting a couple of bins out here, encouraging Tim's laughing.
Well, because other organizations in the town already do it. That's how we buy our 4,000 toys for the kids, because we get it from Tilson, we get it from other places that come to us.
Okay, well, that's news to
You're
me.
cutting into other organizations that use them. Right?
Towns first.
Everybody has the option to donate to whoever they want to donate. I just think we have a revenue source, even without what other people do, there's a certain amount of it that's coming to the transfer station every week, and we should be able to at least take that and use it, even if we just keep it as a bin that's at the transfer station, the public knows. We'd have to do a resolution to be able to put that funds towards pool fund rather than just as town revenue. So
Yes.
I would like to see that become town revenue that goes directly to the pool fund. So if you guys think that's a good idea, we'll do the resolution. If anyone has any objections to it, I'd like to just know about it now. And we don't have to do this, but I just thought it
Well,
was
to
a
your
good
point,
idea.
setting a bin up at the transfer station where we know that there's returnable bottles that get thrown into the regular recycling,
Right.
there's an opportunity. I mean, they wouldn't otherwise go anywhere else, whether it be
Right,
to, the Toys for Tots or the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts. So I'd be in favor of it. It can't hurt.
Yep. And, even though it could go in for revenue, we can't take it to the pool unless we do this. That's the other thing, so that's why I would like to do
What about the labor, though, of actually returning them? Do they already get returned from the town transfer station?
There's a place they bring it to in Kings, they
There
bring
is.
it to
Okay, and
Kings
they
City in
would do
bulk.
both?
Yeah, and we would just have George drive it in his truck too. It's gotta be done, if they're gonna do it, it's gonna be done that way. It's not, I don't think it's a big
They'll
deal.
stop taking mine to Marlton then.
And then next week, we'll also do some budget transfers. And this has been coming up a lot recently too, about whether we should enforce some dress code. And this is just an overview of some options for dress code, because in the past, we haven't had a dress code. Do we want one was the question. I don't want to turn it into everybody has to wear a suit and tie, but, I think there should be some general idea when we have a new employee of what's expected and how they should dress. Does anybody have any ideas on
Have there been any problems or complaints?
that? There has been.
I would be in favor of, because listen, we're going to be moving to a new town hall. We're going to be sharing that space with our friends from other towns. There's going to be a lot of traffic in town hall. And as a businessman, I just think it's important to make a good first impression, and a second impression, and a third impression. So if our townspeople are going to be coming into town hall to do business, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask our employees to, business casual.
Yeah. I mean, this,
Not that there's an issue, like Gene says, there has been some issues here and there, but moving forward, we need to be more professional and be able to enforce that. And I don't think anybody should have an objection to that.
well, you hope that everybody understands you don't wear ripped clothes, you don't wear, certain things, but, not everybody, it seems to be aware of that, and that was the reason. And if you didn't have it, you couldn't say anything to anyone if you didn't have a dress code, so we have to have a dress code if we want to be able to say to someone, you can't wear a midriff, or you can't wear a multi-cuff, or something like that.
You need to be specific in your dress code. Business casual is not specific.
No,
Yeah.
we have some specific things.
Okay, good.
Well, I just, roll that off as far as a nice presentation. The specifics of it, maybe it's smart moving forward to get the department heads together and have a brainstorming session and come out of there with a consensus.
This is just a recommendation based on other people that do dress codes and what we know, but I'm happy to bring it to a department head meeting and see what they say, and basically I just thought it would be a good thing to do. And,
Just want to remind folks about the household hazardous.
yeah, I was just gonna, there's a few things here
Oh,
that we didn't get to, but you can go ahead.
Okay, so that's October 19th, and Ulster County residents only from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this collection will be at the UCRA on Flatbush Road, Route 32.
Is that electronics? Because I didn't hear.
Hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste.
And that includes electronics and pharmaceuticals, and I don't think they have the same restriction. Our police department can only take pills, but if it's liquids, any of the pharmaceuticals can go
Right.
there.
Jeff, like your containers, your vats and everything from your moonshine still, that stuff needs to be put out.
Also, there's some bridge maintenance work that's supposed to happen on the Route 32 over the Walk Hill. That's scheduled Friday, October 4th, so this Friday they're supposed to start working. So I wanted people to be aware of that. There'll be some temporary barriers and signals, and just be aware, so.
3 weeks. That's what the paper says.
Okay, we'll see.
Good luck.
Tag Day on October 5th at 9 to 1 around the Stewart's Main Street area. And the blood drive is December 27th. That's a while from now, but that's been sent out. And that's it for me.
Mr. Bills has something.
Yes, Bill?
I got really just one comment, but I'd like to thank Bob Gallagher for his golf fundraiser for the Charles Bass Memorial Scholarship. Hopefully it was a success.
Thank you. We raised $6,500 and it's our most successful golf tournament.
Okay, that's enough.
Ken, did you want to know why you weren't included?
How did you play ball?
I'm sorry?
Not well.
They wanted to listen.
Why you weren't included in that, thank you.
Oh, that's all right.
We had that,
I was there.
the ribbon cutting at the,
Yes,
theater.
yes.
That
I'm
was-
sorry I missed that. I was out sick that day. I was at the doctor's office while you guys were doing that, so I
Uncle
guess.
Tony did the
That's fine.
honors,
And
and
the place looks great.
you really
Yeah,
And,
that theater really picked up the
Yeah.
Main Street.
yep,
Nice.
it does look beautiful.
Yeah.
And when the Big Cheese opens, that restaurant where behind the garden, Main Street is really coming along. It's incredible.
It's the way we've always envisioned it.
And there's another building coming up for sale real
Yeah.
soon.
And I will tell you, I've had a number of people say, what are you doing with the building?
I actually
and
was
it's
stopped,
parking?
I was stopped
Who wants to
today.
borrow in the back? And what's this, what's that? So they are interested.
Yeah, I had someone ask me today, so, I'm getting asked that question, and I think we'll definitely be addressing that very soon. You'll see also, we've asked the Environmental Commission to review the Catskill Aqueduct project that's being done right now, as we're an interested agency, so hopefully I'll hear back from you guys soon. All right, I have nothing else. If anybody else, we can make a motion. Do we have bills to pay? All right.
They already asked me for them.
Make a motion to pay bills.
After you.
I don't know. We're still having things going on. We just had, Debbie has been today, we're out of paper towels.
Well, because Mike comes upstairs and tells me we're out of here. What do you mean we're out of?
Dave's computer just in bed, so we gotta get it.
We had 2 meetings worth of that salt. They had a trouble with the headboard at that salt. All you gotta do is sit down. I don't see them sitting there, hollering and screaming from afar, you know? That doesn't solve anything.
I think what I can do is switch things around. Decide to do. I'm trying to find out.
No, I don't have any people, but you know, they make their beds, it's not a difference, it's pretty rough. Oh, yeah, just